Finir, which is French for finishing up. So you might have noticed straight away that this looks a lot different to the videos we've done previously. Now, in essence, it's kind of the same thing in respect of we've got the player, we've got an enemy, we've talked about, we've got eggs on it to collect, that type of thing, and we've also got a ground. But all the other stuff I'll talk about in a moment in terms of how to make it look more like a level in a game. But before we do start actually talking about stuff, I actually want to kind of mention about tidying things up. So you might have noticed in my assets, I've got a load of different things on there: sounds, scripts, images, font styles, and so on. And the way that it might be an idea to tidy up. You don't have to do it, but if you want to, so for example, I've got the scripts folder set up. You just literally right click on assets, go up to create, and click on folder, give it a name, and then drag and drop the bits and pieces in. So I'm actually going to drag in, which one am I going to drag in? Restart, just to show you what happens when you do drag it in. And it's going to be really slow, and it'll appear in there. Now, you might be thinking, well, that restart script might not work now because you've moved it, but that's why this is happening. It basically updates all the kind of links you might have set up in order for it to actually work in the first place. And the other thing I want to point out down here as well, if you do want to keep them all in one place, there's no harm in doing that, but you can actually zoom in. You can, or zoom out, I should say. Is that zoom in? That's zoom in, or zoom out to the point of it actually becomes a list. It's up to you, whichever way you want to kind of make it work. Right, now, so the scene itself, like I said, we've got our player, we've got our enemy, we've got our ground, which have changed to white just to make it stand out. But we do have all these other bits and pieces as well. So all I've literally done is brought in assets, which I've made, and you can download ones yourselves from pretty much anywhere. And you literally just drag and drop them up onto the scene and place them in the position you want to be in. Now, everything which is kind of interactive at this stage, so our ground, has got a box collider on it. But these things which are on here, like the trees and the barn and the clouds and the fence and etc., they don't have a box collider on them. So if your player runs into them or you fall, if you kind of land on them, you don't actually interact with them at all. They're just passive objects within the game. I haven't actually quite finished my scene yet because I actually want to add some mountains on there, but I just also want to point out that I added an empty well, just create empty object over on the left hand side because I was finding as I was adding bits on, this list was just getting enormous, loads of things on there. But the idea was behind this kind of empty scene is where I could put all those bits and pieces in there and I could just minimize it away so it disappears. So my mountains, I actually want to drag up, and you'll see that they're there, but they come across to here. They appear over on the left-hand side, which isn't, and I'll have to manually put it into my scenery. Now, it doesn't actually matter where I put this in on the left-hand side here. It doesn't affect whether or not it comes to the front or goes to the back visually. But over on the right-hand side, whenever you bring anything onto the scene, especially like graphic-wise, sprite-wise, you'll get a sprite render appearing, and you should have also additional settings. Now, additional settings where it says order in layer, the higher the number, the closer it is to you. So if I put 20 down, because I know I don't have 20 objects there, it will bring it right to the front, and 0 will obviously take it to the back, and you can even put minus figures in there as well if you wanted to. Now, I already know that I want it to be number 4, because it goes behind the things I want it to go behind and in front of the things that I want it to go in front of. Right, now, the other thing I want to point out as well, our ground, which I brought up earlier, is white. Now, the reason I've made it white is to make it stand out for the time being, because I want it to kind of show where the player and the enemies will be in terms of the ground in the background. And you might have also noticed that our donkey over here is actually kind of half in the ground. Now, he isn't actually in the ground, well, he is, but what I've done for the donkey, for his box collider, I've edited him so it actually starts here, halfway up his hoofs where the white starts. It's just to make it kind of, because otherwise if it was stood up, and especially the fact that it's kind of like not level, like our sheep, all the feet are on the same level, whereas our donkey, the feet are at different positions, so it looked like it was floating if it was kind of on top of this green level in particular, and that's why I did my ground like that, and hopefully that makes a bit more sense. But the idea is at this point, and before I press play, because I actually want to take you through the game to show you what it looks like, just based on the stuff we've done at this point, it basically does everything which we've already kind of done in those videos. But the one thing I do want to point out with the player, because the jumping I wasn't too happy with in the images, in the videos. So I played around a little bit with the mass and the angular drag and the gravity scale, and I'm actually happy now with how the what am I talking about? How how the chicken jumps then. Okay, so if I press play, okay, and you'll see that pretty much straight away. Now I've muted the sounds, but there are sounds on the game, and I'll kind of like say what they are. And you'll know as I'm saying them, you'll realise actually that's stuff we've done in the videos. So at the top, we've got our lives, we've got our timer counting down, we've got a score. My player can move left and right, he can jump, and you can see he actually falls a lot quicker now. And the camera is following me as we go along. And as you can see, I'm skirting along the top of that white box then. So I collect items. Again, this is all in our videos, and my score increments. I can also die by running into an enemy, and I can also die by falling off things. And I've also got it so when I kill the sheep, it disappears. And I also worked out how to get our score to increment at the same time, so it goes up by an extra 500. So I'm jumping across, I'm collecting things, and then fighting different enemies. Oh, I died. Right. Okay. So, and which is kind of nice, really, because it brings us to our game over scene, which was just a black screen in the background before. Again, with the scenery, I've just kind of chucked things on there in the background. The quit button won't work at this point, but it is coded to work. It'll only work when I actually export the game or I build the game. My home button should work, and my restart button. So restart makes that level start again. But if I kind of introduce you now to my intro screen by clicking on home, and yes, it's called Clucking Foxes, and there's no foxes in the game, but this is what my intro is, and there is background music playing at the same time, which I've muted at this point. Now, I haven't got a hard level yet, but I do have an easy level, so then the player can actually go back to where we just were, start again, and try to get through without dying and losing 3 lives. So all the stuff so far is stuff we've actually coded up to this point. I beat my goat at the end, but the problem is I don't have a kind of place where I can win. I just literally fall and die. And also to the left-hand side here, I can just literally throw myself off, and that doesn't normally happen in platform type of games or scrolling scenes. So a couple of things I want to tidy up first of all then. I'm going to zoom back out so we can see it all a little bit better. I'm going to make our ground disappear, as in our white boxes, just by changing the opacity to 0, and as you can see it is still there but you can't see it. And same for this one here, so it's invisible floor 1. I need to name them a bit better actually. And if I do the same for invisible floor 2, which is off scene at the moment, and I'll just click on 0 here as well. Yeah, one thing I wanted to say as well, when you like, it's a bit annoying sometimes when you've got a long scene but you can't actually see everything. So if you just click anywhere in the grey and hold down left and right on your kind of cursor keyboard or cursor keys, you can kind of scroll left and right like that. As you can see, all the floor has gone invisible at this stage. Now, I need to put a barrier here on the left-hand side. So I'm going to add a 2D object, a sprite, and a square. And my square, again, is behind everything. I actually, just for the time being, want it to be in front of everything. And I want it to be across here on the left, where the start of the level is. And I'm just going to resize it by, I can actually just type it in here if I wanted to, but I'm just going to resize it, and which is nice. You can kind of go off screen like you just saw. And the idea is if I add a box collider to that, and minimize a few things so you can see here, then I will make it so the player can't actually walk through it. Okay, I'm not actually going to play it to show you that happening. We can do it at the end. But a box collider is set there. I'm going to change the color of it, or the opacity of it, so 0 as well. And I'm just going to need to do something like the same at the end of the game, because I actually want something for the player to hit, and then it takes us to our victory scene. And I haven't actually shown you the victory scene yet. Have I? Let me go and show you that first. Now, when I double click on victory, it's going to say to me, save what you've done in here, because it doesn't kind of have multiple scenes open at the same time. So I'm expecting that to pop up. I'm going to press save because I'm happy with everything I've done. And our victory scene looks like this. So it's just easy level complete, restart, home, and quit. So I can make that look a bit better at some point, but for the time being, it's just to kind of show you how this works. So let's go back to easy level. Let's go back to scene, and it brings us back to where we were. Now, I should have done this earlier, but the left wall, which I kind of made invisible, I actually probably should give that a proper name rather than just square. And I'm also now going to add another. Oh, what am I doing? I don't want to create it empty at all. I want to add another square at the end of the level, and in fact, I'm going to scale it up so it is as big as it needs to be. And I'm going to bring it to the front as well so we can see where it is. I can move it if I want to, but I'm quite happy for the player to hit there and say that you know, we've actually finished the level. So I need to add a box collider to this. I'm not even connected to it now, look, so it's just square. Again, I didn't name it, did I? So let's call this like end of level wall, something like that. And leave it like so. I need to add a box collider. Box collider. So that bit's done for us. And this time I need to click on his trigger because there is going to be something which comes in connection with it and it will make something happen. Right, so I also need to add a script to this. So I'm gonna, well, actually, I don't need to add a script to that at all. I need to add a script to our player because when our player comes in contact with that wall, end of level wall, then something will kind of kick off. But no, I just need to remove that moment. Now you'll notice our player has got a lot of scripts attached to it at this stage. And if I just go into assets to make sure it gets put in the right place, I'm gonna make a new script. I'm going to be brave this time. I'm not actually going to be typing or copying and pasting it from something I've already got. So this is going to be called end of level, and I'll create there. Now it will do a little bit of generating here in a moment, but rather than kind of finding here and double click on it, sometimes it's easier just to double click it over there on the right hand side, and then it'll open up in Visual Studio for you to do your little bit of coding. So there it is. Now I've also got open these two scripts here, which I am actually going to be copying stuff from. But first things first, in our end of level script, I want to get rid of those bits. I also want to get rid of this. And the reason why I've got item collector open, and this is the code where you collect an egg and it disappears, I actually want to pinch these lines of code here. And I'll explain why in a moment once we've got it across here. And they're going to go there. Now, you'll notice that the parentheses are not quite right at this point, so I'm just going to tidy it up because I know I'll forget later. And what's going to happen is when we come in contact with something, and at the moment it's called egg, so I'm going to get rid of that. We want our victory level or victory scene to appear to say, well done, you've done it. So what I'll need to do is kind of need to go across to our end of level wall and give it a tag. Now, I could, if I wanted to, go and add my own tag in here, but nicely for us, they've actually already done a tag, which is called finish, and I'm going to use that one. If I go back onto here and I type in finish, so when I come in contact with anything, when a player comes in contact with anything called finish, these lines of code are going to happen. And that's why I've also got falling death, because falling death, there's a little bit of code in here which will take us to another scene. So I need to add scene management to the top. No, that's not right. And I also need to add a line of code in here, which I'm also going to pinch from here, which is scene manager.load scene. That part's there. End level. And I'm going to change that to victory because that's the name of the scene which I've got set up. I'm just going to save that. It's the name of the scene which I've got set up already, which I kind of showed you a few moments ago. So let's let that do what it needs to do. I'm not actually going to make the wall invisible at this stage, but I'm going to play the game, and I know already it's not going to work, but I'll just kind of go through the level and show you what happens when you do come in contact with it. When it lets me load up, that is. Apologies for the length of this video, but I feel like it needed to be done like this in order to kind of show the tiny things up there. So you don't need to kill everything. Now that'd be a nice little thing to add in to say if you've got to kill things. So now what should happen is when I collide with our end of level wall, I should get taken to the victory scene, which I don't think is going to happen. Oh, it did. Oh, I know why it happened. Because the video I did before this, which I messed up, I actually didn't take something off because the idea would be that you'd hit that wall and it'd say, oh, I don't know what victory is, what you're talking about. And you would, and the whole point was then I was going to say, go to file and build settings, and victory won't be in the list because it's not actually been added at all. So what I just need to quickly go over with this then, so actually I don't know why I came off that. If I go to file and build settings again, then this add open scenes. Now, the only open scene we've currently got is easy level, so you actually need to have your scene open, so victory scene in this case. Then I have to press save to what I've done there in the background, and it will load up the victory scene here, and then you can say, great, that's what I want. So it basically recognizes it. So my code was fine. I didn't expect it to work, and that's only because I did this before. And it won't work for you because you haven't got this kind of connected up at this point. And the other thing I want to point out to you, in fact, I'm not going to point out to you because that'll be the next video. So there'll be another video after the Finier video. But what I do need you guys to do for me to help me out, I've got my easy level working. I'm going to do a hard level bit as well. But what's really frustrating at this point I'll kind of find out how to do it, but I want you guys to see if you can work it out for yourselves. When you're actually playing the game, that's going to take forever now because I passed it out. Yes, I can't go through that wall on the left-hand side. We didn't test that, yeah. But it's really frustrating that I got all this stuff over on the left-hand side, which I don't want to show. I actually want it so I get so far, so maybe up to this point, and then the camera starts following me. It doesn't actually start following me back here where I start the level. And the same at the end of the level as well. I want to get to the point where see, I'm nailing it this time. Jesus Christ, I say that. When I get to the end of the level, I want it also to get to maybe this point up to there, because you can see the defense kind of goes off the edge, and then the camera stops following me, and then I'm able to kind of walk up to this point and then go to the victory part, which works like so. But anyway, next video will be about how to build your game, and that's basically the export inside of things. Bye.